As you may already know, after my tour ended, I remain out of the country undergoing treatment for a dependency on pain medication. This medication was initially prescribed to see the excruciating pain that I was suffering after recent reconstructive surgery on my scalp.
It's the sort of confession that shreds every last scrap of Hollywood's velvet curtain. Jim Carrey, of all people, has lit a match under the guarded myths surrounding Oprah Winfrey, Diddy, and the late legendary Michael Jackson. We've heard outlandish rumors before, but when a man who's made a career out of mocking the system decides to point a trembling finger at the heart of it, naming names and alluding to hidden files, suddenly the shadows start to look a lot more crowded. The claims are explosive. According to Carrey, the very titans who now control the gateway to fame and fortune were themselves haunted by Michael, not as a pop star, but as an enigma who might have known too much and refused to play their game. Hollywood's power brokers, we're told, can handle anything but a wild card, and Michael, they believed, was a man with nothing left to lose, but everything left to reveal.
Puff Daddy flipped out regarding Michael Jackson at a party in Los Angeles. Apparently, a bunch of celebrities got together and they were having a tribute party for Michael Jackson. And one of Michael Jackson's songs was playing. What was the name of the song?
Man in the Mirror.
Man in the Mirror was playing. There we go. And, you know, the celebrities like Queen Latifah, Wesley Snipes, Hill Harper, they were all dancing, having a good time to his music.
In Carrey's telling, Michael's untouchable aura was not just a media creation. He was the one man even billionaires and media moguls didn't dare cross directly. For years, both Oprah and Diddy were rumored to keep their distance not out of respect, but out of genuine apprehension. Almost like two monarchs who'd found a rival with the keys to their own castle. Industry veterans whisper that Michael's very presence could send ripples through any room, forcing smiles from people whose careers depended on maintaining a perfectly controlled narrative. Diddy, the self-made mogul who transformed hip-hop into a multinational business empire, and Oprah, the queen of daytime television, both projected an image of unshakable confidence. Yet, in those rare, unscripted moments when Michael appeared, the masks slipped. Several insiders, assistants, former publicists, one road manager who spent time backstage during the "This Is It" rehearsals, insist that both moguls seemed spooked, always scanning the periphery, worried about what Michael might say or do next.
For years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on.
The reason for this fear Carrey claims comes down to secrets. Not just any secrets, but the infamous blacklist files, a set of documents that Michael reportedly kept under lock and key, the mere mention of which triggered panic behind the scenes. We may never know if these files were fact or fantasy, but the speculation alone was enough to make industry veterans sweat. One former executive swears that Michael's files contained evidence, documents, tapes, even financial records, tying key industry players to acts that could dismantle reputations and fortunes in a single news cycle. Another former bodyguard, speaking off the record, told us he once saw Michael burning papers in his private suite after a tense phone call with someone on Oprah's team. Whether that's paranoia, clever self-defense, or both, it's hard to say. What matters is the effect. The most powerful gatekeepers in showbiz were convinced that Michael held the nuclear codes.
You don't know what it is. You don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
You don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know.
We don't know.
All the comics and show business don't know what this is. Right? Yeah.
What is it?
Come on, Jimmy. Seriously, the time is up. People are hip to this kind of stuff. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower.
Was this all delusion, the product of a troubled mind and a lifetime of pressure? Possibly. But the fact remains, after decades of manipulating access and loyalty, careers built on knowing everyone's dirt, suddenly, Oprah and Diddy found themselves potentially exposed to someone with nothing to lose. Carrey alleges that the only way for these gatekeepers to regain control was to make sure Michael could never flip the switch. With fame and money as both carrot and stick, the elites, Carrey hints, removed those objectionable to the system and made certain that anyone who saw too much was either paid off or left behind. The persistent question echoes, was Michael's collapse on June 25, 2009 truly the result of medical mismanagement, or something far colder, a system quietly neutralizing its greatest risk? It's a claim that sounds wild, until we start picking at the threads. Michael's last months were a cocktail of desperation, stress, and paranoia. As he rehearsed night after night for the This Is It comeback tour, his shot at reclaiming glory and repaying monstrous debts, those around him described a man on edge, unable to sleep, frightened of the people supposedly working for him. We all know the official story. Michael passed away at 50, felled by a fatal dose of propofol administered by Dre Conrad Murray, a physician who, according to prosecutors, was completely and utterly inexcusable in his care. But to believe the case ended there is to ignore the swirl of contradictions that erupted in the aftermath.
It's a lot more complicated than just Dr. Murray was at his bedside when he died. Circumstances had been leading up to this day for years.
The propofol conspiracy has grown legs for a reason. How does a superstar surrounded by world-class security and advisors end up with a nightly drip of a hospital-grade anesthetic in his rented LA mansion, far from any proper medical supervision? How did a man worth hundreds of millions wind up dependent on a doctor who, by all accounts, had neither the expertise nor the independence to stand up to those managing the tour, the money, and the estate? Was Dr. Murray a bumbling accomplice, or the most convenient fall guy in recent memory? Diddy and Oprah, the new rumor goes, may have looked the other way, their silence bought with more than just goodwill, perhaps with the guarantee that they'd inherit the spoils of Michael's vanished fortune and retain their positions as the industry's all-seeing eyes. It's a nasty thought, but not one that's easily dismissed. After all, the list of accidents and sudden downfalls in this corner of the world is long, and the line between personal struggle and strategic sabotage has always been razor thin. We can't ignore that in the weeks leading up to his collapse, Michael himself told his closest confidants he feared for his safety. Paris Jackson, Michael's own daughter, later declared, "All arrows point to that. It was a setup." And LaToya Jackson, never one to hold her tongue, claimed her brother confided, "I'm going to be taken out for my music catalog and my estate." Even the supposed friends, managers, executives, TV personalities seemed to know more than they admitted, closing ranks, calling for calm and shifting blame from one disposable scapegoat to the next.
That moment completely changed my career. It made people look down on me.
And then there are the tantalizing details, the sealed toxicology reports, the 2 autopsies, the hours between Michael's collapse and the call for help. Fahim Mohammed, the same Mr. Fix-It who would later handle Diddy's security, was one of the first on the scene, another thread weaving Michael and Diddy together in ways few have bothered to question. How many other handlers and shadowy fixers crisscross these lives, cleaning up, patching holes, making sure certain stories never reach the surface? Publicly, Oprah and Diddy grieved, praised Michael's legacy, and then moved swiftly to distance themselves from the chaos. But old allies and former insiders talk of nervous phone calls, frantic meetings, and whispered instructions to keep journalists and investigators far away from anything that might rock the boat. Oprah especially has never been far from allegations of using her influence to guide narratives, quash stories, or blacklist those who threaten her circle. Rose McGowan accused her of protecting a sick power structure for personal gain. Seal once claimed she'd known about Harvey Weinstein's behavior for decades and kept silent. And then there's the matter of the Winfrey school scandal, where Oprah's name was dragged through the mud as accusations flew, and where, once again, the details were swept under the world's thickest rug.
So it was my obligation to let Oprah Winfrey know how I really felt.
With Diddy, the story spirals into even darker territory. As the federal indictments pile up, racketeering, trafficking, bribery, all allegedly protected by a network of loyal fixers, conspiracy watchers have noted the same pattern: video evidence, tapes, whispered blackmail, and the constant threat of exposure. Diddy's infamous white parties and even wilder freak-off events are rumored to have featured celebrities, stars, and up-and-coming hopefuls, some now terrified of what might leak if the wrong hard drive falls into the wrong hands. One persistent internet theory, quickly debunked but never quite dismissed, claimed a secret tunnel connected Diddy's mansion to Michael's. The facts are foggy, the blueprints are nowhere to be found, and yet the myth endures, a metaphor for the hidden passages beneath the Hollywood hills, linking powerful men and their most dangerous secrets.
Guys, they found underground tunnels at Diddy's homes. This was first brought up by Shadowy, where he talked about the underground tunnels in Diddy's luxurious Los Angeles mansion. It was an underwater swimming tunnel leading to a mysterious grotto, reminiscent of an ancient and modern human use of caves.
Was Michael Jackson a victim of his own excess, or the last real threat to a system that could not afford another rebel with receipts? The propofol kept him under, but what or who put him there in the first place? These are questions that linger, growing sharper with each anniversary of that day in June when the King of Pop was wheeled into history, leaving only whispers, sealed files, and the ever-expanding reach of those who claim to mourn him most. We look at Oprah Winfrey now, the billionaire brand, the voice of inspiration, the woman who makes kings and queens out of the lucky few she invites into her empire. But if we peel back the layers and pay attention to those who've been left behind, a different picture emerges. One of ironclad control, quiet retribution, and a ruthless dedication to protecting the old order. Industry insiders don't mince words when they talk about Oprah's rumored power in Hollywood. One casting director, who asked not to be named, described it like this: "You don't work against Oprah, you work with her, or you don't work at all." She's supposedly built her legend on uplifting others, but there's always been that whisper. And the phone stops ringing, the meetings dry up, and suddenly, you're an outsider.
And when I saw the final show, her comments were in there.
Right, was in there, but yours wasn't in there.
And mine weren't in there, so it just looked like I kind of took it.
Wow.
Like it was just quiet. And didn't...
For those who obeyed, opportunities blossomed. For those who challenged her, or worse, threatened to expose uncomfortable truths, doors slammed shut. Michael Jackson was different. He didn't need Oprah's stamp of approval, and that alone made him dangerous. According to more than one source close to the Jackson estate, Oprah's fear wasn't just about what Michael knew. It was about the fact that he refused to bow, to play the game, to let himself be molded into a cautionary tale. If Michael could outmaneuver the Queen of Daytime, what did that say about the rest of Hollywood's power brokers? Her critics argue that Oprah has mastered the art of using her public grace to bury her private grudges. Her role as a gatekeeper is more than a metaphor. It's the hard reality of an industry built on loyalty, silence, and sometimes calculated elimination. We've seen flashes of that darker side. Just ask the stars who've been uninvited or the journalists who've tried to probe a little too close to her private world. Those who cross her tend to disappear from the spotlight, their projects evaporating, their scandals quietly amplified. It's all part of a playbook that rewards obedience and punishes defiance. So when Jim Carrey hints that even Oprah felt Michael's presence as a threat, it's not just another tabloid soundbite. It's a glimpse at how high the stakes really were. The bigger question: was her fear about protecting her image, or about protecting an entire system built on mutual protection and silent complicity?
I couldn't believe it because I loved her so much. I admired her and looked up to her. And she pretty much reprimanded me.
The Diddy angle adds another layer of intrigue, and lately it feels like the walls are finally starting to talk. Diddy's transformation from hustler to mogul was never just about music or money, it was about proximity to power. He watched the game up close, saw how the levers were pulled, and learned quickly that to stay in the inner circle, you played by the rules, even if those rules were never written down. In the backrooms of LA, where secrets change hands faster than platinum records, Diddy understood that survival sometimes meant looking the other way. Now, with the music catalog wars raging, Michael's ownership of his own publishing rights has become a sort of industry legend. We all know how much money is at stake when one artist controls the golden goose, the catalog that defines the sound of an era. Michael's stake wasn't just valuable, it was threatening. A former Sony exec once muttered after a tense negotiation, nobody wanted Michael in that room. He had more power than all of us, and he knew it. Diddy, climbing his way to the top, would have seen that as both a warning and a challenge. He'd watched what happened to those who tried to outshine the system. Did Michael's command of his legacy put him in the crosshairs of men like Diddy, who dreamed of owning not just the music, but the machinery behind it?
You have a couple of pets as well,
Yeah.
a dog and a cat with interesting names, to say the least.
Yeah. That's Oprah.
That's Oprah. Okay.
It's impossible to ignore the timing. Michael's sudden removal from the board, metaphorically speaking, left a vacuum. And in Hollywood, a vacuum is never empty for long. Others rushed in to claim what was left behind: rights, royalties, and relationships. Diddy, ever the opportunist, expanded his own reach in the wake of Michael's absence, striking deals, inking partnerships, and watching as the business landscape bent in new directions. Some close to the Jackson family have wondered aloud, if Michael had survived, would we be talking about Diddy as a kingmaker, or as just another player outflanked by the king of pop? But let's not lose sight of the man who cracked this Pandora's box wide open. Jim Carrey's role in all of this isn't just comic relief, it's the unfiltered conscience of an industry where secrets metastasize in the dark. Carrey's never been shy about calling out the hypocrisy in Hollywood, but with his latest accusations, he's put himself in the firing line. There are plenty in Beverly Hills who'd love nothing more than to call him unhinged, to dismiss his claims as the rantings of an outsider. But the stories keep stacking up: vanishing files, sealed depositions, unexplained gaps in the timeline of Michael's final days. Why would a man with nothing left to prove risk everything by going after the untouchables, unless he believed the danger was real?
Dumb and Dumber 2 opens tomorrow. Please say hello to Jim Carrey.
If we zoom out, Michael's fate starts to look less like an isolated tragedy and more like a recurring pattern, the system quietly erasing anyone too loud, too powerful, too unpredictable to control. It's not just about one performer, one doctor, or one night of medical chaos. It's about an entire culture that devours its own when the balance of power tips too far in any one direction. Was Michael's public struggle with insomnia just another symptom of a campaign to break him down, keep him pliable, and ultimately remove him from the game when he could no longer be manipulated? Did Oprah and Diddy, knowingly or not, play their parts in a much bigger script? One written not on teleprompters, but in closed-door meetings and silent handshakes. Look at what's happened since. The people who stood to gain from Michael's absence have profited handsomely. Record sales, licensing deals, endless posthumous projects. Meanwhile, those who might have challenged the official story have gone quiet or been quietly sidelined. Even Michael's own family has struggled to pierce the wall of non-disclosure agreements, missing documents, and sealed court records. The question now isn't just who was there the night Michael slipped away, it's who stood to benefit, who whispered to whom, and who made sure the questions never got answers.
I never enabled his addiction, which I was not aware of. Your Honor, I am an innocent man. They accused me of having Michael on a 3-hour propofol infusion. That was false.
We're left with a haunting sense that justice for Michael Jackson, if it ever comes, won't arrive in a court of law. It will surface only when enough voices refuse to stay silent. When someone finally risks everything to drag the whole rotten machinery into the daylight. Jim Carrey, for all his bravado, may be the closest thing we have to a whistleblower willing to torch his own career for the truth. He's pulled back the curtain, and now we're all forced to look at the ugly machinery behind the spectacle. Are we ready for what we might see if more files leak, more insiders speak out, and the rest of Hollywood's royalty start to sweat? So we ask you, was Michael Jackson's departure really the result of a tragic night? Or was it a warning to anyone who dares to challenge Hollywood's hidden rulers? Do you believe the King of Pop was silenced by the very people who stood to inherit his crown? Or is that just another myth in the city of illusions? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's see who's brave enough to connect the dots. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your guard up, because in this town, nothing is ever what it seems.